Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Podcast, hosted by CRM technology and sales process expert Christopher Smith, talking with sales leaders that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Listen to find out how the best of the best achieve success with their team and CRM technology. And remember, unless you are the lead dog, the view never changes.
Welcome to Sales Lead Dog. My guest on today's episode is Jeff Fleischer. Jeff is CEO of ProScale Partners, also the founder. Jeff, welcome to Sales Lead Dog.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be here.
Tell me a bit about ProScale Partners.
ProScale Partners is a culmination of sort of my career in sales. I've spent about just over 20 years in startups, mainly cybersecurity startups, and have lots of stories and I feel like PhD level experience in flipping these companies as an operator. And a couple of years ago, I forged my own company to advise CEOs and in the beginning, potentially find my own co-founders to start something. And then I just evolved into, wow, there's so many gaps. You take for granted the knowledge that you have in your journey and how important that is for others that you assume have it. So I created this company in hopes to helping other startups and other businesses grow and scale. And I love it. It doesn't even feel like work.
Yeah. Now, I am very involved in the Colorado entrepreneurial community where I'm based, and I love working with young entrepreneurs. They may not be young in age, but they're early stage entrepreneurs, maybe the first time they've ever done this. And I totally get what you're saying. I come out of the time I spend with them with so much energy. It really is a wonderful time and experience.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And they're so in love with what they're doing and they're passionate about what they're doing, but maybe they're not thinking about EBITDA exercises or financial modeling or that they're going to need a runway and investment in the near future. So that market feedback is crucial in sort of putting down those happy years and really listening to the market and surrounding yourself with teams that are also supporting the mission, but have their own strengths in finance and marketing and other areas that you might not is key. So it's great to have somebody else looking over your shoulder and kind of showing you where you're going and making sure you're prepared.
Yeah, I know from my personal experience when I engaged with clients, they're oftentimes absolutely experts in whatever services they deliver, but they are floundering and lost when it comes to marketing and sales. They absolutely are just like, we're just throwing mud at the wall to see what's going to stick, and we're praying something sticks.
Yeah, I love analogies. And the greatest guitar player in the world probably needs a lead singer and probably isn't playing the drums. And when you're building out orchestras, you might be the conductor at some point, but you're not playing all the instruments. And it's tough to, when it's your baby and you put on all the caps, all the hats in the beginning, and you get success, it's tough to delegate and let it go and truly scale. But it's imperative. So it's always interesting meeting kind of the smartest people in the world on these topics and showing them the gaps that they have as far as scaling business and in a way that's respectful. It's a journey. You're almost part psychologist from that perspective. Oh, it does get emotional.
Yeah. Tell me about your first sales job. Is that something you thought like, hey, I want to be in sales? Or what's your story around getting your first sales job?
So my first real sales job as a kid was managing a place called Ski Market in Massachusetts. So I was selling skis and I was a skier back then and fit people for their bindings and things. And it was a seasonal job. And when that season ended, I was getting a phone call from a store that was opening nearby called Gateway Computers.
Oh my.
So that was it for me. Once I took that position, I learned about, we got to take these things apart, put them back together. I learned about networking, started to kind of build my own websites and just basically I was full blown curious on what this is in 1997. And then it pivoted to software sales and all kinds of, and eventually cybersecurity. But I credit just that curiosity of whatever it is you're selling to leading you to where you hopefully want to be. And thankfully, because I do enjoy technology, now we're advising on building data centers. We're raising money for big projects out in the Midwest in a green way that doesn't leverage or need a lot of water. So I often go back to that Gateway Computer time frame where I was selling physical computers. And then my next journey was getting into mainframe, which as I evolved to cybersecurity and encryption and phishing and other things, I thought that was way in the past. There's no way I'm going to get brought back into hardware. And here we are selling data centers for AI initiatives and quantum. And so it's almost like you never know when you're going to go back into the memory bank and sort of draw on those experiences that are now evolved, but still familiar enough for you to jump in with your curiosity. So yeah, that was one of my first more impactful, meaningful sales jobs.
Yeah. Beyond curiosity, what else? Are there any other attributes or things that you really have drawn upon that have led you to the success you've achieved?
Yeah. Grit. And I would say you don't want to be obsessive and be too competitive, right? But you certainly want to be your best. And in sales, it's a lot like being an athlete. Yes, you have a team, but you're also measured on how you perform. So I think grit and determination and just making sure you're servicing the customers the right way, you're delivering a message the right way, and you're passionate about it. Because I like to say these two phrases: parallel imaging. Putting yourself in the shoes of the person that has that problem. How would you want it solved if that was you? I've always kind of looked at that because you spend a little bit more time caring about that problem, the chasm or gap that it is that you're solving for. And I think that person senses it. They understand that you're not just giving them a pitch, reading a few bullet points, and then insert impatience, right? You want to get to the next step. You're actually truly consultative, and you're right there shoulder to shoulder with them in their pain and building that trust and how to get out of the situation with the solution that you're providing. And sometimes it's not your solution, it's somebody else that you might know of. And that's even better, right? When you truly build a trust with somebody and recommend something else that you don't benefit from, these things pay themselves forward. And that's called building a relationship. So the other thing I'd say is on that element, in my career, just in cybersecurity with about 6 different companies, we're selling to the same companies. So if you have a good reputation, you're a hard worker, you show up, just like going to the gym. If you show up, that's more than most, right? So just having that determination and grit with the customer in mind, with the problems you're solving in mind, not necessarily your solution, I think that's a good recipe for success.
Absolutely. It's my world. I say my team probably gets so tired of me saying the stuff they hear from me all the time, is that we sell CRM. And nobody buys CRM because they love CRM. They're buying it because they are trying to achieve a specific outcome for their business. And that's what we need to focus on. That's what we need to understand. We need to put ourselves in their shoes, as you said. And how do we help them get that outcome they're seeking? It's just a tool. We sell a tool. That's it.
Sure.
There's no magic.
One button that shows me everything, right? That's what they want. They want simple, so they can get back to the golf course or whatever.
Yeah. It's like right now it's a giant time suck for me or my teammates, whatever. But it's like, that's what we need to focus on. And how do we best leverage this tool, whatever that tool might be that you're trying to sell? That's what they care about.
And with CRM being pivotal for any organization that wants to track the activity, track the trends, looking at your customer acquisition costs, your time to close, and your forecasting. If you just have a bunch of data in there and you're scraping emails, that's okay. But what trends are you seeing? You need buy-in from everybody.
We're taking a quick break to thank you for listening to and supporting the Sales Lead Dog podcast. I want to take a moment and tell you about my book, CRM Shouldn't Suck. If your CRM feels more like a black hole for data than something that actually helps your team sell, you're not alone. The book breaks down why CRMs fail for so many businesses and what you can do about it. No fluff, just real strategies that work. So go to crmshouldn'tsuck.com to order your free copy right now. That's right, we're giving it away. And while you're there, take 2 minutes to check out the CRM Impact Score. It's a quick diagnostic that shows you how your CRM is really performing, where it's helping you and where it's hurting you. You'll get a personalized report with clear, actionable next steps you can start right away to to maximize your CRM investment. We've also got blogs, videos, and a bunch of other resources to help you finally get the results you were promised when you bought your CRM. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes of Sales Lead Dog. Okay, let's get back to this episode of the Sales Lead Dog podcast.
Everybody, you need the CFO, the marketing team, your product team. You need buy-in from everybody to take that feedback. So it's almost like the CRM is a language that you define for your culture, your initiative. So it's somewhat custom built so that you're all speaking from the same sheet of music or the same language. And then obviously the other dreaded word for sales is KPIs. But if you understand the why, and this is another major point I want to make for salespeople, sales leaders, for the board, the power of why. If your folks are running around in circles in their own little vacuum of, hey, we love this product, it's easy to sell, everybody loves it, why aren't we getting paid the commissions on this that we should? Or why is the marketing team talking about something else? This doesn't make any sense. Well, that product may not be profitable. It might be on its last couple of years of relevancy, and there's a movement or shift to platforms or something else that we have to drive towards. Otherwise, this is going to be 1 year of good sales, and then we're done.
Yeah.
So understanding the why and rolling that down is a real easy way to get people aligned.
Yeah. Without it, you're not going to have alignment. It's going to be the Wild West. People are going to be chasing whatever's the path of least resistance. As you're saying, like, hey, this sells really super easy. Let's focus there. Not understanding that there's no margin here, or it's not part of our strategic goals. Strategically, we're trying to do this. You guys are all going off this way.
And it's a tough kind of chicken and egg thing sometimes, because if there's a real strategic initiative and it's not fully baked, you probably don't want to share too much, but without making yourself look like you don't know what you're doing as a leader. But if it's going to be put into a production mentality, you at least have to have messaging that satisfies the troops that are carrying out the sales missions and in concert with marketing and product and the rest of the go-to-market team. So there has to be at least a baseline why, even if it's temporary. Hey, in the next 90 days, we're going to put a SWAT team together to go figure out, is this a viable product? Yep. We have 3 design partnerships with 3 different verticals to work on this together and carve out value. Great, let's go, versus just here, sell it. A little bit of context goes a long way.
Yeah, it really does. It's people, you can't just tell people, do this because I said so. That might work a little bit, but it's not going to work for the long term. Not at all.
No.
You mentioned KPIs earlier. That's something I see a lot when we come in and are implementing CRM or doing a rescue for a client on their CRM. Is I'll ask, like, what KPIs are you guys leveraging today? And oftentimes it's crickets coming back. Do you see that a lot? And when you do, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, of course, I'm never going to name names, but I've seen ranges from no KPIs, no sales methodology. They had even invested in Salesforce, and it was just at the default placeholders for where a deal was in the journey. All the way to something that worked for somebody 20, 30 years ago, and they just they're familiar with it, so they keep it that way. So what I like to do is come in with a baseline. I don't care if you're selling vehicles, software, skis, or whatever it is you're selling. You need to identify your prospects. That's an entire team. The sales team certainly calls on their list of folks that they know when they're comfortable and believe in what they're selling. I'm sure they're going to start reaching out to their favorite customers. And marketing's doing cold outreach and campaigns and trying to generate leads. So the identification stage is really the entire company. And once you identify, you qualify, which can be done. There's AI bots that can help qualify people on the website. There's certainly those discovery calls, maybe business development reps and inside sales reps that might kind of take on a lot of that shoveling, digging. And then there's assess. Once you've qualified it, now you're assessing. You're assessing their team, their budget, the way they operate, their gaps. So that's kind of the first leg, is identify, qualify, assess. And you can rename them whatever you want, but those physical activities and exercises need to happen. And then you're proving, negotiating, and closing. So I break it down into those like 6 different buckets and split them in half, where you have kind of a pre-sale, where you're not necessarily forecasting this at a high percentage, and then a post iteration where, okay, now we're proving the concept. They have a demo, they have maybe a trial engagement, and we're proving we do what we do, and obviously negotiating and closing according in the right way. So once that's established, you might take out a stage here and there, you might add stages, but I like to enter into kind of the reality of whatever you're selling, you're going to go through this journey and then insert those and then start measuring how much time are we in each stage, what collateral and marketing assets do we need, what brought them to this stage, what was the messaging they heard, all the context you can collect. I think a CRM is built for that, right? Yeah. And then you can fine tune it to measure, are you approaching a power of 40 in concert with your accounting systems? So you can create board level reports. If you're looking to raise at some point, you're going to have to be responsible for that amount that you've raised and report back the status of the business. And so I think that you need at least a baseline to understand each stage and then start measuring what's happening. What's our customer acquisition cost? What's the time to close? Time in each stage. And then look for micro trends. If you have 5 salespeople, maybe there's regional trends, maybe there's different habits that certain folks are doing, and not to compare or berate folks on calls, but more shine a light on, hey guys, this like a football play, right? This play is working for this team. Maybe we should try it because we're weak in this area. Let's go see if this has some success. And so I feel like it's a CRM is sort of like your Bible in a way, if you build it the right way, or it's a bunch of garbage. If it's just a checkbox, say we have a CRM, it's just a collection of all of our stuff. You're hoarding information and not using anything with it. And you're not purging things you don't need and fine tuning it. So there's a whole philosophy there that I can probably spend days talking to you about.
Yeah, it is. I often am shocked at that, and I don't know why, because I see it over and over again for 20 years, but I'll talk to a VP of sales or CRO, whatever, and is it a lack of understanding of the business or just something else that's preventing them from addressing this issue of we don't have a structured sales process, we don't have the KPIs, we're not really measuring things. What's behind that in your experience?
Well, a few trends I've seen are shifts from the way they've done business before and maybe a consulting model. Now they have software. Now they have to measure differently. So they get comfortable in more of a career lifestyle where they're focused more on, say, the cash in the bank account versus the movement of the burn and the top line and the R&D that you pour into it and your competitors and all the different things, where I think they just get comfortable and they don't realize the challenges that are in the environment that these software as a service endeavors to encapsulate. Like it's overwhelming. So I feel like a lot of folks just look at that as like, well, let's just put our head down and sell.
Yeah, that's what I see.
And it's kind of like saying like, hey, I'm going to go play golf, right? And I'm just give me my driver. I'm just going to grip it and rip it.
Yeah.
Well, what's around the corner, man? Maybe you should lay up with a 5-iron. Maybe not on this hole, maybe in 2 holes you do that, but what is your strategy?
Yeah.
So they lean on what got them there, right? And we all have heard this phrase, what got you here might not get you there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of people got there. They have the validation that they did something right. They have an ego and confidence in that decision, and they don't see a need for it because they didn't need it to get here.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a shift, but another saying is nobody has scaled meaningfully on their own. Right. They've needed teams.
Yeah.
And as soon as you have other teams involved with other purposes and functions, you need to measure that and orchestrate all of it into, in this case, CRM. Yeah. In other cases, threat hunting is a near and dear to me endeavor from cybersecurity. I was with Team Cumry for 5 years, and they were saving lives, literally saving lives with their data. Yeah. It was called Pure Signal. And it was basically internet intelligence, things that were happening on the internet. They could track to a certain extent to show like this person was at this location and did something bad, right? To apprehend war. And these folks are moving in this area. You might want to get out of this area in war territories. A lot of crazy data that these people rely on to literally save lives. They're not necessarily using a CRM, but they're orchestrating that intelligence, sharing it in the new patterns that they're finding. They have to keep track. They're not just jumping in and willy-nilly solving a problem and then logging out. They're tracking the progression of the art of threat hunting in their systems and in orchestrations. And we do that. We might think of Splunk or Threat Connect in different anomaly folks like that provide tips. Why would it make sense to do that in the threat hunting world and not the sales world? Right. For any other world, you need to track accounting and let's say QuickBooks or something like that. So why would you do that in sales, in marketing?
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's kind of insane.
To me, I've had this conversation many times where with people when I ask that question, they'll be like, it's like you say, hey, status quo is easier. I just put my head down and sell. As long as I'm hitting my sales numbers, we're good, right? And it's like, you're good now, but what if something changes in the marketplace and you're still going down this path when you really should be going over here or over there? 6 months from now, a year from now, you could be in big trouble. And if you don't have that data, if you're not measuring things, you're not able to see those trends, identify those trends, you're going to be on the back end of that response instead of being on the front end saying, hey, we need to start shifting some stuff.
Yeah. If you're going to say that, and I'm guilty of this, I was a top sales guy, and that's why I got into sales leadership, because I was one of those, I don't want to say arrogant, but ignorant salespeople that thought, man, I'm crushing my number. I'm the number one sales guy. Like, they should build a statue of me. I mean, this is how we really think as salespeople. And why am I good? I probably didn't know why at the level I needed to. And then why is it no longer going to be good in a year or two when the competitors catch up and do different things and you're still kind of doing the same thing? Football, they're not running offenses from 1987 anymore for reasons, right? So I look at that. It comes back to the why again. And one other thing with scaling teams, salespeople becoming leaders, and all kinds of folks becoming leaders, you start to see patterns when you have access to this data, and you start to see how you can replicate and build repeatable systems,
right? And
just really add more value than as an individual contributor, because you're now almost, I don't want to say cloning yourself, but you're scaling your capabilities to, at one point I had 52 people on my team. Yeah. There's no way I could outperform those people myself against them. We were thousands of times stronger in that sort of system that we had. And even then it felt chaotic. Like, we still don't have a great handle of the data that we should have, even though we were probably better than most. I feel like you're never fully comfortable. There's always that storm that comes in unexpectedly. Even though you're collecting as much data as you can, you should be a little paranoid. And without a CRM and without a tight methodology, good luck. You're blind.
To me, it's always heroic effort, because if I was just talking with someone who was sharing with me, he was working with a company where they would lose a salesperson and everything would go down, and then it would take a while to build back up again.
Yeah.
So it was constantly up and down, up and down. Well, they had no process. They had the systems, nothing was set up. People move on. It's the reality of selling. Very few do people stay long-term, right, anymore. So what are you doing to account for that in your systems?
Right. I've invested in add-ons to CRMs that do sales enablement, where especially when COVID hit, there's a lot of more free time at home, let's call it. We're all stuck at home. And so instead of flying out to headquarters and having a whole team meeting, and you're going through these practice exercises, so you're walking through mock-up sales environments and going through objection handling and all those things that are pretty cool. We kind of started to replicate them through a few different video platforms and experimenting with constant evolution. And at the time you're thinking, hey, this is what works. But then when you look back to what you put 6 months ago and a year ago and 2 years ago, and this was a 5-year journey, you start to realize, like, this worked, and it might have worked for a quarter or two, and then it evolved into something else based on the data-driven decisions. And I don't know about you, but I'm a big golfer. And I use a lot of analogies because I think it just gets to the point quicker. But if you are, let's say, a golfer, and you're about to hit this shot and you're just not sure. You're in between clubs and you're kind of, whenever you're not sure and you're about to make a swing, that's not a good place to be. If you're a salesperson and you're kind of sure that this is what they need, but you're not 100%, you make that swing. It's not a comfortable place, right? But if I tell you that the wind's in your face, so go with the club that's longer because it's going to even out, and that the pin's in the middle. So even if it's a little long, you still are in a great spot. And now I have all those kind of concerns melting away. That might be my caddy. Yeah. Now probably my shoulders are dropped and I'm comfortable and I'm more likely to execute the shot. So if you don't have a caddy for your sales, that's what a CRM is, if it's tuned correctly. Right. Now, you can have someone carry your bags and not know a damn thing about golf. They're not necessarily truly a good caddy for you, which is what I think a lot of salespeople experience. They experience CRMs that are just capturing information for no purpose that they see worthy. They're not attached to the why. The advice that they get from it is garbage because they don't know how to caddy for them. So they just fine, read my emails and I'll throw these placeholders in, but it's not a valuable instrument for the organization because it's a checkbox. I think it's an all too common problem that most people would probably agree. Most salespeople would say, hey, I've been through this before, or I'm going through it now, and it's a pain in the neck and it wastes my time. But that's even scarier. They don't have a solid caddy giving them the confidence in the shot that they're going to make.
I was just talking to a VP of sales last month at a conference, and he's going, Chris, you want to see my pipeline? He pulled up his phone and pulled up Excel and showed me an Excel spreadsheet. He's like, that's my pipeline. It's like, our CRM's crap. I can't trust it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and this is a big multinational company, like multi-billion-dollar revenue, very big. Their sales leader is managing their pipeline in an Excel spreadsheet. So it's like, that's one thing people think like, oh, it's only the small guys that have these problems. And it does not matter what size you are, what industry you're in or whatever. If you're not doing it the right way, if you're not setting your team up for success with a strong process, with strong supporting systems, with accountability and visibility, it's hard. It's harder than it should be.
That reminds me of a few stories, a few places where the sales leader used the CRM almost more of a big brother, like a smothering tool, and also a political tool where maybe there wasn't real pipeline yet, but the reps were forced to make it real.
Yeah. And
it's almost like counterintuitive, right? Like you've got this kid that's starting to lift weights and now you're like forcing him to lift too much. They're going to get injured. You're forcing the sale to go through these progressions prematurely to piss off the customer, to force them into like committing to some time period that you haven't even gone through the stages. Yeah. And I've seen that in a few companies actually, where the sales leader is actually the cancer. Yes. And they're using that tool to just suck out and prop up a forecast. And remember, a lot of these technologies can take 6 to 9 months. So they're buying themselves heroic for themselves, pat on the back for a good part of a year.
Oh, yeah.
And that they're hoping that some of these do drop. And that's grossly irresponsible and never ends up well. But I've actually seen that happen a few times. And so there's another reason for salespeople to kind of cringe when they hear CRM.
Oh, totally. It's one of the main reasons. Yeah. I talk about this all the time. CRM is not meant to be big brother. It's not meant to be a stick you can hit the sales team with. Did you get your activities in? Did you make your phone calls? Did you schedule your meetings? I'm like that. All you're going to do is push people away. All you're going to get. I got my activities in there, but nothing in there is going to have any value. It's bare minimum. I'm going to do the absolute bare minimum I have to do to get you off my back. And that's it. And how is that helping the company? How is that driving ROI? How is that driving growth? It's not.
I actually once I got to this one organization where they had Salesforce, but no methodology and it was kind of running kind of like loosey-goosey, like it's almost like the Wild West. Even territories weren't set up and all that. And once I got in and organized the CRM, I was very conscious to not push it on the team yet. I call it boiling the frog. You would just shove it in hot water. You slowly turn up the heat. Yeah. But I was very almost aware that I needed to show value for them as individuals to buy into it. So I started to look at trends, and I would, on my sales calls, I would open up with something helpful that the CRM provided that would help them see a new trend, or put something in front of them that made them think a little differently, that helped them with their KPIs, with their goals to sell. And I did that for at least a couple months, where every week I would draw something out and try to extract something meaningful to show the value of it. And then you would see them fall in line, like very slowly, like you'd start to see them maintaining these methodologies and actually contributing, like, hey, I want to record a video because I found a new way to talk to the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, about this issue.
Yeah.
I demystified it with this analogy, and give me 5 minutes. Like, great.
Yeah.
Now you have buy-in. Now you have people that are looking at it from a non-skeptical perspective, because you've proven to them that it's going to help them make more money.
That's what it
Help
is.
them get organized.
Yeah.
And not be used against them for some other ulterior motive, which is beyond me, but all too common.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of, in cybersecurity, especially, a lot of co-founders that have no sales background, where they're engineers.
Yes.
They are the C-3POs of the world in Star Wars, not the Han Solos.
Yeah.
So they almost hate some of the salespeople, because there's a perception of, they're these good-looking people. I was shoved in lockers when I was in high school. Like, whatever it is, there's a little bit of that. And so it's almost like, I'm tracking what I see what you're doing. And there's that's gotta go.
It does. It really does. It has no value.
Absolutely insane.
I talk about that. Leaders lead from the front. They're not behind whacking the sheep herd with a stick.
Yeah.
That's a herder. That's not a leader. And so we've been talking a lot about CRM. I always ask this question, CRM, do you love it or hate it? Tell me your perspective on CRM over your years of experience as a sales leader.
I used to hate it because I was abused. And that's why I tell these stories. As an individual contributor, I had some bad experiences and wound up keeping my own system on a spreadsheet. And that doesn't scale. As I did have a really good experience as a sales rep, though, with one of the leaders, and he kind of tied all these moving parts together with marketing. At the time, we had 7 products, and it was reduced down to 3. The reason it was reduced down to 3 was the feedback we're getting from the CRM. When you go into Costco, you see 3 different choices. There's a reason for that. Not every company, but subtraction sometimes equals addition. And the amount of time we're putting into these projects, we're wasting our support resources and our go-to-market, our CAC. All these things were unhealthy. So we killed some products and shined on the top 3, and we were later acquired 3 years later. So that sales leader really opened my eyes to the importance of my individual contribution, feeding in data that can help the company steer from my purview on the ground. And as I became a leader, that really hit me. So I would convert people from hating CRMs to actually making the CRM work for them, to a degree where a lot of these salespeople become directors. And as soon as you become a director, people are reporting to you, and you're getting a benefit from how they sell. How are you going to measure it? How are you going to know how to teach them what they need to hear, meet them where they're at? So for me, I love it, but it needs to be clear to somebody of why it's there.
Exactly.
Back to the why.
Yeah. It's so much is the why. I love that. I talk about this all the time. My frequent listeners for Sales Lead Dog have heard me say this many, many, many times. It's all about the why. If you don't have, as a leader, a clear definition of the why, stop and figure it out. Stop what you're doing and figure out the why. Because if you don't have clarity, how the heck is your team going to have clarity? Yeah. It's absolutely critical.
Like you said, they're not just going to do what you tell them to do. Yeah. Why wouldn't they? Right. They need to know why they're doing it. And they might appease you, but they're not really doing it the way that you want anyway. So I've been in situations where I didn't know exactly what the right thing to do was, but I would let them know, we need to figure this out. Yeah. So let's try this for a week. Let's try that for a week. Let's measure. Yeah. And eventually we found that we need to kind of insulate this project into a SWAT team and do some design partnerships because it wasn't ready. But imagine if I said, just sell it for 6 months, I'd have people quitting.
Yeah.
So you really, if you don't know, that's okay. Nobody's perfect, but devise a system or a plan to find out. And if you don't find out, maybe it's not the right thing to be doing, right? And you need to report this back into the board and executives as well, so they understand.
Yeah.
They can't just tell you, hey, do this and not know why either, right? So it's always a two-way street. Everyone's in it together. We're all in the same scene of the same movie. We all have different parts. Let's stick with the actual vertical of the movie.
Yeah.
Is it a horror movie? Is it a comedy? We don't want somebody running around telling jokes at a funeral necessarily, unless it's Wedding Crashers or something, right? So what is our theme here, guys? What are we trying to achieve? Let's all sing from the same sheet of music, and that's all I can say on that. It's the most important thing. Otherwise, you're just running around blind and probably doing damage.
Yep. I think that's a good place for us to stop here. Jeff, we're at our time on Sales Lead Dog. That was a great way to close out this episode.
Awesome.
This was awesome, Jeff. I love having you on the show. If people want to reach out and connect with you, if they want to learn more about ProScale Partners, maybe work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You'd reach out to me at jeff@proscale.ai, and my website's proscale.ai, or hit me up on LinkedIn, Jeff Fleischer, and happy to talk to you and compare war stories and see how I might be able to help or my team might be able to help.
Yeah, of course. If you didn't catch that, no worries. We will have it in our show notes at impellercrm.com/sales lead dog. So be sure to check that out. Connect with Jeff, and be sure to subscribe to Sales Lead Dog. So not only you get this episode, but all the future episodes of Sales Lead Dog. Jeff, again, thank you so much for coming on Sales Lead Dog, and welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Pack.
Thank you, Chris. It's an honor to be a member of the pack.
As we end this discussion on Sales Lead Dog, be sure to subscribe to catch all our episodes. On social media, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Watch the videos on YouTube, and you can also find our episodes on our website at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. Sales Lead Dog is supported by Impeller CRM, delivering objectively better CRM for business, guaranteed.